So real quick, I really want to talk about this because it was a scene. I did a video on this earlier. Now the scene when Rhaenyra was talking to Rhaenys when they were burying the Eric and Ark. That scene to me was a very telling scene from Ryan Condal and the director of this episode. Forgive me, I forgot her name. Her last name was Patel.
Geeta,
But
I think it was her first name.
Geeta Patel, correct. Yeah. I thought that scene was very, very telling when it comes to the books. Now we all know what the books are. The books are pretty much a history book of what multiple maesters, their versions of what the history was like back then. So of course, we all know history is not always correct if it's passed down hundreds of years, all that stuff. And it's different POVs of how they interpreted the history. Now, Rhaenys goes and says like, all this stuff going on, we're not going to remember what started this war. And Rhaenyra goes, it's because they usurped my throne. But it's like, and then she goes, well, did the war start when Aemon got his eye taken? Did it start when Luke was killed? Did it start when Jaehaerys was killed? Like that, I think that scene was the director and writer telling us like, it's going to change. Some shit's going to change within this story from the book because we don't know how the war really started because it's different perspectives. But what'd you think about that scene, X? I want to hear from you first.
The fact that she named everything off and we don't have a starting point, it could really be at any point, there's so many scenes, big scenes that happen within the Aemon's eye being taken. That one was when I heard her say, and I was like, it really could have started then, because since that point, there has never been anyone in the same room without getting pissed off at each other for no reason at all. It was just this and that, just the, like nitpicky things that really don't need to be what it is.
Or even when Kristen Cole beat Joffrey to death at the wedding or at this little ceremony, it could have started.
But they weren't
gonna.
No one was gonna really care about that as much as.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But and at that point, someone should have noticed. Hey, Cole is out of control. But no, they just elevated him, and look where he's at now. He's now the hand, one of the worst hands ever. But but yeah, no, I think that was a great point for Rhaenys to bring up. Is there's so much going on. We do not know where this started, and there's something else coming up that we're going to forget about everything else.
Yeah.
And
I love, of course, I love your opinions because you are a director, a writer, and all that stuff. But hearing this scene and watching this scene, what was your first reaction, and what did you think of it?
Two things. One, the episode even starts out with an analogy of like, here's two families that have been at each other's throats forever, and then end up just having a gigantic battle, which we don't see. We see the results of it.
What a scene! What
a crazy scene, right? Yeah. But like at the same time, those people didn't know what they were fighting over anymore. So there's this thing about humans. There's this thing about human beings and what the stories we continue to tell each other. And stories are super powerful things because they shape our understanding of the world. And so when I start saying, if I say Tones is the best, and I tell all my family Tones is the best, and everyone goes down, Tones is the best, they all believe Tones is the best. But if I start going, oh man, that Tones, you know what he did today? He did this, he did that, he did. I mean, you can shape the narrative around
every day for me.
What you can really shape the narrative around what it means to be in relationship with other people. And what we tend to do is, rather than say, you know what, like Tones has good things about him and he has things that he does that frustrate the hell out of me. Instead of saying that, if you start to make a hero or a villain out of the people you're around, you will go down this path. Like this is a path that you can go down in real life. And so I think that's used as an analogy to kind of showcase to us as the audience, this is how the Targaryens have made such a mess of everything, is that they started in on, you can't pinpoint any one thing because instead of making amends, they just keep going to war with each other and they keep battling it out. And so I think it was a really artful scene. I think that Rhaenys is my favorite character for one, but also the most wise character that's playing any of these games, in my opinion. She knows what strategy is. She knows what battle is. She knows what she can get away with, what she can't get away with. The scene in the last season where she flies the dragon in when they're doing the coronation, it was just crazy. So I love Rhaenys, and I think that this is just her saying, it's kind of like, let me teach you about how life works, but let me also teach you about how you might need to make some decisions going forward. So it was phenomenal.
Yeah. I do love that explanation because as you think about it, the two sides, then you can also look back to when they're burying the brothers. Mm-hmm. It's how you see their stories. I mean, they saw each other as one saw the other one as a traitor, but they still loved each other even during that whole scene.
Yep. He's like, very poetic.
I love you, but you're a traitor. But he sees himself as the hero because he's backing the correct, supposed to be queen. Mm-hmm. So it just depends on how you can see their stories.
Yep. 100% agree. It was one of my favorite scenes from last night for sure. What was that comment you wanted to speak of?
Maud's comment about the Targaryen bastards.
This one right here?
Yep.
Go ahead and read it, and then you can answer first.
It was speaking of Targaryen bastards, what role do you think of Aegon's bastards will play in the show that we saw at the end of season 1, especially his heir Jaehaerys dead? And I thought this was great because, again, we see the brothers talking about the bastards that are sitting throughout the city, and it wasn't just one that they mentioned. There's a couple. So will we see them? And I think I said this at the beginning of the season. Will we see them come into play? Will we see them growing up a little bit? Maybe are there older ones? I'm not saying the bastard brothers of Daemon, but are there more of them out there? And will they come in and play these roles? Can they be maybe dragon riders? Is there something else we need to be watching out for? Could they form their own small army and maybe back one of the rightful king or queen? I think that's a great question. I think they might. I mean, we've already seen 2 supposed bastards show their faces, and I think they're coming. So let's get the army of the bastards rocking.
And go ahead, Jay. I'll say something after you. Go ahead.
No, I agree with all that. I mean, I think it's going to be hard because I think that this show is not going to have enough time to explore as many things as it could. You know what I mean? Like even Game of Thrones as a show, I was watching a video. This guy had done a breakdown of like all the plot lines that they just kind of abandoned because there was so many of them.
Yeah,
it's like there's only so much you can do to kind of keep the narrative on track. But obviously, in this episode, what they were doing was they were showing us that there are lots and lots of claims to lots of different types of things. And everybody has a different perspective on what those claims are and why they should have those claims. Mm-hmm. And so they were just muddying the waters of this like, Rhaenyra is on this quest of being like, but he said it was me. And she's like justified in that. We know she's justified in that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but everybody else has a different perspective on what this means. Like everybody else has a different idea of what it means to be the heir. Everybody has a different idea of whether or not that's fair or unfair. And you're just going to find that there's like a billion different perspectives, and they all start to, if you let it kind of unravel and you don't have good leadership, it just goes nuts. And that's what's happening. Yeah. So I like that aspect of it, of showcasing like, yeah, there's a lot of other people in here too that have a lot of other claims, and they don't get the benefit of being queen or king or whatever. So it's kind of wild.
And on top of that, them having us seeing 2 Targaryens that are bastards, we also got to talk about Hugh Hammer. I'm not too sure if he is a Targaryen bastard. Hugh Hammer is the dude we saw in episode 2 when he told King Aegon that they needed more metal and they needed to be paid ahead and all that stuff. And then Otto went up to him and was like, we can't do that. Or he was going to say, we can't do that. But he like gave him the, like, I'm going to fucking do it. It was that guy. And then we kind of seen him in when his wife was like putting hella cilantro in the soup.
Hella cilantro.
You knew she was Mexican, bro. You knew it. No, but that's another guy who has, platinum hair. Or is it platinum or Would you consider
His is
platinum?
more like a
Yeah,
like
it's
a
kinda
like a
platinum.
whiter-ish.
Yeah, white hair. But I don't know if he is a bastard, but he sure looks like. I think his hair was more telling that he was a Targaryen than we seen for that dude that we last night. So there's I'm pretty sure there's multiple bastards of Targaryens within King's Landing for sure. But we'll see what happens. You know, it looks like we've won for Team Rhaenyra, Olaf, but we'll see. We'll find out.